Commission meeting is now open pursuant to adjournment. The Honorable Michael Green is present and presiding. All ye have in full business come forward and ye shall be heard. May God bless this great state, county, and nation. Mr. Wagner, would you lead us in prayer, please?
Let us bow together, please. Holy Father, we love you. We thank you for this day and the day you have given us before. We ask that you be with us this evening as we go forth to do business. Give us the gift of judgment, discernment, that we can serve the benefit of all. Be with our troops, Father, wherever they are in this world. Put your hands of protection around them. Guide them, lead them, bring them safely home to us. Be with us now. These things we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Mr. Williams, would you lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you would, please remove your hats, check your cell phones, make sure they're on silent, please.
And so we don't do what we did last time, make sure everybody has their microphones ready to go. Miss Wilson, if we get a roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Coleman.
Here, ma'am.
Mr. Curtis.
Here, ma'am.
Mr. Daniel.
Here, ma'am.
Mr. Jerry Hooper.
Here, ma'am.
Mr. Ricky Hooper.
Here.
Mr. Hunt.
Here.
Mr. Hart.
Here.
Ms. McClanahan. Here. Mr. Malone.
Here.
Mr. Mayberry.
Here.
Ms. Phillips. Here. Mr. Rochelle.
Here.
Mr. Tidwell.
Here.
Mr. Wagner.
Here.
And we have 100%.
All present.
Yes, sir.
Has everyone had an opportunity to review the previous minutes? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Daniels, second.
Second.
Mr. Hunt, all in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it, and the previous minutes are approved. At this time, I'd like to open the floor. If we have citizens with petitions or grievances, if you'd like to come forward to speak, we would welcome you to do so. Quiet tonight, aren't we? Thank you. So, report and communication from County Executive. What I learned this afternoon is that I'm losing two of my staff. Denise Greenwell, who has the title of Finance Director, has turned in her resignation, and I believe Sharon Plant is probably going with her. Their last day will be Friday. So my office is hiring. If you know somebody that has bookkeeping and accounting skills, we would love to talk to them.
Don't sound like you got too much of we gonna talk to them after they leaving.
And that does affect some other decisions that we'll be talking about later tonight, I feel like. But with that said, we'll get on to the resolutions. The first resolution authorizes the transfer of funds from account 48990 entitled Other to account 54110 entitled Sheriff's Department line item 338 Maintenance and Repair of Vehicles. Mr. Hooper.
Yes, this was brought before the administrative committee and passed on to the full commission.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing no more discussion, without objection, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and the resolution is approved. The next resolution authorizes the transfer of funds from account 449700 entitled Insurance Recovery to account 54110 entitled Sheriff's Department line item 338 Maintenance and Repair of Vehicles. Mr. Hooper.
Yes. This was also brought before the administrative committee, explained, and passed on to this full commission.
Is there any more discussion? Hearing no more discussion without objection, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and the resolution is approved. The next resolution authorizes the transfer of funds from account 48990 entitled Other to account 54110 entitled Sheriff's Department line item 599 for the sum of $300. Mr. Hooper.
Yes, this also brought before the administrative committee, passed on to this full commission.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing no more discussion, without objection, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and the resolution is passed. The next resolution is appointing Ms. Kathy McClanahan to the Audit Committee. Mr. Ricky Hooper.
Yes, Ms. McClanahan was recommended to the administrative committee. She accepted, and we voted to pass it on to the full commission.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Ms. McClanahan. You are now a member of the Audit Committee.
Thank you, thank you. I'm excited.
Don't think nothing, I didn't tell you.
The next resolution authorizes the adoption of the following language to the Humphreys County Highway Department Personnel Policy. Number 1, sick leave was changed from 19 days to 190 hours. Number 2, the regular work week hours from 6:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. with 30 minutes with pay allowed for a lunch break. Mr. Hooper.
Yes, this brought before the administrative committee, discussed. Some questions were asked, but passed on to this full commission.
Is there any more discussion? Hearing no more discussion, without objection, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and the resolution is adopted. The next resolution authorizes the county trustee to engage bank depository services with First Federal Bank in Waverly for operating and idle funds in the accounts of Humphreys County government and for receiving earnings credit on daily balances and such funds while on deposit. Mr. Hooper.
Yes, this brought before the administrative committee, discussed, and moved to pass on to this full commission.
Is there any more discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Hunt.
I will got for these pieces of papers passed out for each one of the commissioners, please. And you,
Okay, if I could, if we're going to open this up to discussion, if we could recess the meeting of the full commission and adjourn to the committee of the whole board for the purpose of discussing these items. Do we have any objections?
Why didn't we do this last week?
Some more information that come about a little bit later, I guess, reading some of the numbers.
Let's do it.
Do we want to vote on whether you want to go back to the admin committee? If anybody's opposed to it, we can certainly have a vote.
We can go ahead and discuss it, or go ahead and then discuss it.
Okay. Then without objection, I declare by unanimous consent that we have dissolved the meeting of the full commission and that the committee of the whole board. And with that, I'm going to turn the table over to Mr. Ricky Hooper.
Chair recognizes Mr. Hunt.
ladies and gentlemen of this commission, I was approached last Tuesday night when we left here by Mr. Marcus Vine about these things. He said, Mr. Hunt, he said, you need to look, y'all need to look at the percentages of what's going on here. So I told him I would. So I worked on this Tuesday, on Wednesday. On Thursday morning, I came to the courthouse and went in and talked to your girls, and then I went straight down to the hall to Miss Leanne's office. I said, Miss Leanne, I need some information. I said, how much money do we have in the account right now? She said, $42 million. I said, how much do we newly carry? She said, somewhere around $15 to $20 million. So I go back home and I started putting some figures together, which y'all have got right here. We need to look at this bad. I mean, this is per 1 year. She kind of misled us on this letter right here because she said $1 million. 1 million. We're looking at 1 year with this much money. And it's outstanding of what, you know, the taxpayer in this county is gonna get hit hard to start with. We can't leave this much money in it, there's no way.
John, I think that was per month too on the sheet.
Per month, yeah, per month. That's why I say it's this piece of paper that she put out misled us. It misled us. So, you know, that I'm open for questions and everybody else too of what needs to go here, but we need to look at this.
She deals with it every day.
Well, you know, here again, I don't know any of the banking businesses. The banking business today is just like everybody else. Computer, 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 computers. And I'm sure every one of them, and we got 2 bankers here, we got one right here, and we got Mr. Vine sitting back there. I'm sure they probably use the same thing, I don't know. But all I'm looking at is, like I say, for the taxpayers, and we can't leave this much money on the table.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
on the $40 million, it's not like you've got that much money in the bank all year long and drawing interest on it. The county's gonna have to have a healthy fund balance to offset what we pay out when this school thing gets going, every year. I don't know that it will amount to that much money every year because we won't necessarily have $40 million in the bank. And then you're talking about misleading, that's misleading, as far as I'm concerned. We don't, we've sat right here and we've done business with First Federal for a long time. And everybody knows each other's moves. Everybody knows who they need to talk to when we have things going on. I don't know that it would be wise right now in the scope of things to change, but that's totally left up to this commission.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just point a couple things out.
Yes, sir.
Was Mr. Rochelle through?
I'm done.
Okay. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
$20 million of what we have on deposit in the bank is turned over to us from the state. This money is to be used for last dollar spent on the new schools that we build. Part of the language with that is that we cannot start using that money until every other resource has been used. In other words, we go through the state and federal grants, and every resource has been utilized before they will let us and allow us to start using this $20 million. That money is to be placed in an interest-bearing account, and at the end of the job, any funds that are not used are turned back into the state with the interest that it earns in its entirety. I don't know this for certain, but if you said that the new schools were going to be $50 million and we took 5% of the $50 million that we could use the $20 million for, you know, what is that, $2.5 million? So at the end of the day, the likelihood of us utilizing $20 million for the new schools, I would think, is going to be very slim, unless if we could get the legislative body of the state to change the rules and allow us to do something else. So my point is that when we're making a decision about what to do with this money, we should be looking at what it means for the county and the funds that our county actually works with, and not necessarily counting pie in the sky funds that we may or may not ever see. Last week, when I spoke, I had a sense of what my office was going to be faced with this week, and that has indeed come to reality. And what I said to you all last week is this was not the best timing for us to consider changing banks. And look, I'm with you. I want every dollar that we can get. But if I need to hire and train a new finance director for the county, as was her title, and we're all changing bank accounts at the very same time, it's just not necessarily the best timing. And with that, I will respectfully yield the floor back to the chairman, and certainly will follow your wishes if that is what you all so desire. Before I yield it, if you all do decide that you want to take this into further consideration, I will say that by Tennessee law, and I'll just read a little bit of this here, but basically it puts it back on the county legislative body to appoint 3 of its members, which would be 3 of you all, in conjunction with the county trustee and the county mayor, shall constitute a county finance committee with the county mayor as chair of the committee. I would think that the right thing to do, if you all so decide, would be to revert back and appoint a finance committee to assist with this decision. And with that, I'll yield the floor.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hooker.
is there a time frame that this has to be decided on by? Okay. I personally, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, no, go ahead.
Oh, no, if you have some more information, I was just
I
gonna
was
make a
just
motion to
saying,
table
Mr.
this
Chairman,
for the time being.
Mr. Curtis.
I assume that we have $20 million at rotation at all times. So that's still a lot of money. I guess the question needs to be is it worth, because we get a lot of low interest loans through First Federal, like 1.24%. There was another one that's what was it?
1.24% for $15 million and
Yeah.
more.
So I guess that would be the balance of, is it worth ruining low percent interest and also a relationship versus 20, whatever the return on $20 million is? That's the question. But it's a lot of money. What's the total? Do you know what the total is for the 20?
It's 145 difference.
Yeah.
It's about $13,000 a month. Just on 20 million.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
we're sitting right here and looking at all of this, and I think Leanne kind of got smacked in the mouth a while ago about misleading us. I don't feel like she did, and if she did, I know it wasn't intentional. But if we create a committee, that's what this 14 people here are. We are a committee. And you're putting 3 more commissioners on it as a committee. Why do you want to do that? We are the committee. So, with that being said, all we're doing is complicating things. And it's making everybody else going to have to come and report back. Looks to me like we're just, we need to keep it the way it is. and move forward.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Daniel.
but what I'm like Eddie, I don't think she misrepresented anything, and she's the one that deals with it, and she has dealt with it, Leanne has in her office, and I'm comfortable with it, and I think everybody, I don't know about the new ones, but you know what situation we're in right now, I would say let's leave it alone, because I trust her.
Do you want to respond to it, or?
I honestly was not trying to mislead anything. I honestly took a bank analysis from the last bill that was done and just repeated it with these corrected numbers. Honest to God, if you know anything about me, I do not take anything about my position lightly. And this is not something that I have taken lightly. I have lost countless hours of sleep on this because I understand how much money this is. Do not get me wrong. I've called the bank twice to verify the formula that I Googled was correct because I know it is a lot of amount of interest. But like Mr. Hurt said, they have provided us with 2 extremely low interest bearing loans to help us through these times that we are facing right now. They have had exceptional customer service anytime something has arisen. I mean, honestly, I couldn't ask for anybody better to help me with this situation. And I know it is y'all's decision in the end, but I would appreciate if you did take into consideration my recommendation, and I'm only trying to do what is best for this county.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Curtis.
I don't think, well, obviously we know that she wasn't trying to intentionally mislead anybody, we know that. But is there any way, and we may have already tried this already, will First Federal play ball with us? Will they meet us halfway and split the difference? Then we all get what we want.
I've tried.
And they're just stuck on that number?
I mean, they were higher than any other bank other than Apex, and all the other banks were in the same ballpark.
Chairman,
Yes. Mr. Tidwell.
we're currently collecting property tax for the new jail and the new school, right? So that amount that we have in there is continuously growing until we start those projects, is that correct? So cash on hand is going to actually be higher than what Mr. Hunt said until we start those projects. So that difference will be even greater. And so you're talking quite a $300,000 over a year for our taxpayers difference.
We don't keep the money, right?
We do.
It goes back to
No, we keep that. That 20 million is not part of that. That 40 million is not part of that 20 million that he's talking about.
The school
Debt
gets
service,
built in
what
what,
he's
2
talking
years,
about.
but 20 million gonna be gone.
Right.
And you're gonna ruin a relationship with a bank that.
Well, who's to say the relationship with the new bank won't be just as good?
It's true.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Wagner.
none of us can make a motion at this point till it's reconvened as a committee of the whole. I think everybody's had a fair opportunity to speak. I'll leave that decision with Mr. McGreevy, should we reconvene and make a motion either to table, wait 6 months, or make a pass either way.
Mr. Chairman. All right,
Hey,
we're
one
sitting
second.
here.
Did you make a motion?
I can't make a motion while we're adjourned.
Can we hear from,
We can
someone
make
from
a
First
motion
Federal?
for the
We're still in discussion.
admin committee over.
Can we hear from First Federal? I'd like to hear from First Federal, if anyone wants to speak.
I mean, first of all, thank y'all for, considering it as a taxpayer. I do appreciate y'all's service to the county.
Use the microphone.
Mr. Neal, could you state your name for the record, please?
Yeah, Grant Newell with First Federal. I do appreciate y'all's service. I know that y'all spend a lot of time and meet on it. But I would agree, you know, I think that it's, I don't know if dangerous is the right word, but to look at one line item without looking at all the others. You know, we tried to, when the county needed it most, we tried to come through with a really good, a good rate on the loan to try to help during the tough times that we knew there were and were coming. And we did so based on the relationship that we had and the long relationship that we had and the hope that that relationship would continue to. And we certainly still hope that it does. I think that to look at one line item on there and just say, hey, this is a line item and this is what the number says, we're going to go with that without considering other things like Mr. Rochelle and others have brought up, I think is dangerous, and I think everything needs to be considered in the whole picture. You know, I also think that you know, on about $16 million, just over $15 million, you know, 1.24% that we bid on that was, you know, it's significantly less than what, you know, probably market was. And then we had another $6 million that we bid, you know, just over 2% on. Again, this thing is not just what can we pay on deposits, but also when the county needed money and they issue bonds, you know, we wanted to make sure we were there and there to support at the lowest cost possible. Also, these things have to be secured, you know, and they have to be secured by securities that the banks have. You know, we have $351 million in securities as of 9/30. It's a call report that's public knowledge. On that same call report, for Apex, they list securities of $0. So also as a taxpayer, you know, I want to make sure that the dollars that go to whatever bank y'all choose, those dollars are protected and secured according to what was given us to bid on in that bid sheet. I think it's important that those dollars are secured for the taxpayers and for the county. And, you know, I would want to make sure wherever it goes, whether it stays or goes to a different bank, that whoever wins this bid is able to secure that money with the securities there. And then I would just finally say that, you know, it's not just these deposits, but there's payroll and there's ACH and there's, I'm sure FEMA, and everybody has these different account numbers. And during a time like this, when we're building a school and we're building a jail and we're trying to repair bridges and we're trying to do all this stuff, and we're down 2 people, according to Mr. Bergreva today, is it, you know, do we want to throw something else at Leanne right now, or do we want to keep on with, you know, what she's comfortable with and what she knows and what the county knows, and then maybe down the road relook at this when things have kind of settled a little bit. And so, again, I appreciate y'all's time. I appreciate the way that y'all look at this. But I would ask that, you know, that we not just consider one line item, but that we consider this whole picture and the recommendation of the team that worked so hard to make this county run on the finance side. Thank you.
Grant, leave that on just for a minute, Mr. Chairman. I got a question. I don't know if everybody knows or did their due diligence. I did mine before last week. That's why I wasn't really wanting to get into all this. But anyway, if something erupted right here in this body, and we sent the county executive to your bank for $5, 10, 15, or $20 million, and we got to have it, you can guarantee that.
Yeah, the funds that y'all have on there, they are secured. We have to put
Right.
those securities in the, you know, it's in the state, it's collateral pool. So yeah,
I mean,
that money's there.
You have to guarantee that that money's available to
Yes,
us.
that's right.
Thank you. That's
Well,
all.
if we was to deal with a bank without security, like, if they close, can we still get money, or is that gone? I mean, how's that work?
Yeah, I'm probably not sure, but it's secured for a reason, you know, and that's for the protection of those dollars. And so, you know, according to the bid sheet, you know, that was a requirement. That was a requirement of it, and so we will make sure that all requirements are met too.
I got a question. All the money that y'all have lended is secure, so you have that money in the bank at all times? Is that what I'm hearing?
That we loan, no, so for the deposits,
Secured, like all your, everything that's secured, you have that on hand?
no, not on hand. So what we're saying is, so the deposited dollars that are here at the county,
Yeah.
that money has to be collateralized by securities. So if something happened, that we have securities in a state collateral pool that they could pull from to make sure that the county money is always protected. That's not saying that it's at the bank in the vault at all times. No, that's incorrect.
What would happen if multiple people were trying to pull to try to get their like?
Again, so we have to collateralize specifically for the county money.
Okay.
And so if it's 40,
So it's separate.
whatever $1 million, then we have to make sure that we have enough securities pledged against that money in the state pool.
Any other questions, Mr. Newell?
Sir, how much of your staff, how many folks do you have working on what you would consider county stuff? Are we a fairly large account for your bank, or as far as staffing goes?
Yeah, it's very large, and there's probably a number, I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly how many, but there's 2 or 3 that know the ins and outs and work closely with Leanne. Probably on a daily basis, is probably fair to say, to make sure that we do everything we can to help.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Vine, would you like to address the committee?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Marcus Vine with Apex Bank. Marcus Vine with Apex Bank. Thank you for allowing me to make a few comments. First of all, we just appreciate the opportunity to bid. Thank you to the trustee and county executive and this commission just to give us the opportunity to bid. I'd like to say, first of all, First Federal, I know, has housed these funds for several years. First Federal Bank is a fine institution. There's a lot of good people working there. So I worked there for a number of years myself. So I would just like to say, so is Apex Bank. We're a good institution. We're a strong institution. We have some fine people working there. What I can tell you is this: we will dedicate the highest level of service if we're fortunate enough to get the county's accounts. Just to address a couple of things that Mr. Neal brought up, as far as the collateralization of the funds, we are a member of the Tennessee Bank Collateral Pool through the Tennessee Department of Treasury, just as First Federal is. There's no difference in that. Now, he brought up the fact that we do not have securities to pledge. You basically can pledge 3 different ways. You can pledge cash, securities, or, according to state law, you can pledge a standby letter of credit. Now, we'll do that through the Federal Home Loan Bank, and it will be no different in the collateralization. It'll be dollar for dollar secured at no additional risk to the county through the Federal Home Bank. So there will be a letter of credit in favor of the county to be pledged as a county against the county funds. I'd be happy to answer any questions about that. Now, I also would say this, as far as Apex Bank not having securities on our books, that's no indication of our health. In fact, if you look at capital ratios, which is a very key indicator of a bank's health, our capital ratios are 14%, as opposed to First Federal's at about 9.5%. So again, we are well capitalized. In fact, out of the 4 bidding banks, we were the highest capitalized bank of all bidders. So, but if I can answer any questions, I'll be happy to.
Questions?
Mr. Vine, what is okay, you have a 3.875 on your bid, correct?
That's right.
And I know that all depends on market, but what's to say next year that would be, do you see, that's quite a change, that's quite a bit higher than First Federal's bid of 3.15%. Do you see that as being something that might be reduced next year? Is this kind of, I guess what my question is this more of a, this is not like an enticement percentage, is it?
Teaser rate.
Yeah.
That's what we call it in the banking business.
Okay.
No, sir, I think that if none of us have a crystal ball, Mr. Hooper, as far as predicting interest rates, but what I think we will see in the coming years, we'll see a continued rise in interest rates. So we could be at a higher rate this time next year There's no guarantee of that. But I certainly don't think we'll see it go in the other direction in the next 12 months, if you look at all the economic indicators and interest rate predictions. So I think it's safe to say that this rate, and we put a strong bid on the table, no doubt. We'd like to earn some of the county's business. We've been here since 2014. We've been very involved in the community. We're going to stay involved in the community whether we get county funds or not. But I think we have demonstrated a high level of community involvement. Our bank has, and we would love an opportunity to earn the county's business. So to answer your question, we don't know what interest rates will do. My inclination is that interest rates will be at this level or higher next year. So, you know, when you look at, so what we were asked to bid on, so we got a bid request from Ms. Stanfield. She asked us to bid on $30 million. I guess that's an average collected balance. We'll assume that, but that's exactly what we bid on. So $30 million, and if you look at the difference in interest rate from our bid to First Federal's bid, it's 0.725% when you do the math. You run that on an annual basis on $30 million, that's $217,500. So again, we know that we've got a fine institution that has the accounts now. We just are happy to be at the table, have a seat at the table, and ask for the county's business. And to me, it looks like there's a little over $200,000, 200,000 reasons maybe to take a look at this to the expense of the taxpayer. But again, thank you so much.
If you still there, if you're able to secure the bid, what can you do for us to help us transition everything over? Because obviously it's going to be pretty difficult. I mean, are you going to be available to help smooth everything over?
The short answer to that is whatever it takes. I'm going to commit 2 people to this to give the county the highest level of service and to drop what they're doing and service the county, whatever we need to do. We need to come here, we need to set up shop at the courthouse, whatever Miss Leanne needs is what we'll do.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Vine? Thank you, Mr. Vine.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, one more thing. Before we go back into full meeting, I think we need to go back to first base and do what Mr. Pagrika said. We need to have time to, we need at least a year, because he's got his people. He's gonna have to hire some new people. And Leanne knows what's going on now. First Federal knows what's going on. They're gonna have to have some help. So, with that, I'm done.
Any other comments?
Are we bringing this back to the full committee and voting, or we have a motion on what to do?
Let's go back into the full
Full
commission, then we
committee.
can make a motion.
Okay. If there is no more discussion, we will adjourn the committee of the whole board and call the meeting back into order. Any objections? Without objection, I declare the committee of the whole adjourned and its report to the proceedings of the full board resumed.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Mr. Daniels.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we stay with First Federal.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Wilson, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Coleman?
First Federal,
Just so that was a motion I made.
so that's,
So that would be a yes?
yes, so stay with First, motion is to stay with First Federal.
Yes, sir, it is.
Yes.
Mr. Curtis?
No, ma'am, I'd like to go back to the table. So, no.
Tim Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Jerry Hooper?
No, ma'am, I'd like to table it as well.
Mr. Ricky Hooper?
First Federal.
So a yes for the
Yes.
motion, correct? Mr. Hunt?
Go back to the table.
So you're voting no for this resolution? Thank you. Mr. Hurt?
Yes.
Ms. McClanahan?
No.
Mr. Malone,
No.
Mr. Mayberry,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
No.
Mr. Rochelle,
Yes.
Mr. Tidwell,
No.
Mr. Wagner.
Yes.
It's a tie vote, it's 7-7.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hunt?
I don't think that Mr. Mayberry should be able to vote on this, because he is associated with First Federal Bank.
I do not.
He's not associated anymore. No.
I'm not here.
And honestly, at this point, it would not make a difference with the vote. It'd be a moot point, but noted.
I didn't know he resigned.
He retired.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I didn't know that.
You want to break the vote, Mr. McGreevy? It's certainly in your. You know more what's going on.
Mr. Chairman, can we have time to think about it, talk about it, table it?
We can. Honestly, this goes back to what I said. I do firmly believe that there needs to be more research done into this before we jump ship. And I would like to appoint a finance committee that will ask very specific questions. And I would like to say, I appreciate both of you all being here tonight. And you understand that this is not anything personal whatsoever. And I get what you're saying when we're talking about the taxpayers' dollars. That's important to all of us, and we want to be mindful of that and do what's in best interest of the county. So I do think my recommendation would be to appoint a finance committee and ask very specific questions and bring that back, report that back to this full committee, and let you all at that time make a decision on it, if that's acceptable.
Mr. Chairman, this is the committee. Yeah.
Yes, sir, it is.
And you have the opportunity to break that tie if you so feel willing to do so.
That, sir, I cannot do. This is a decision that the legislative body is going to make, and that's not, I'm not going to break a tie.
But you can't.
You can, but you can't compel it.
Okay.
You should put a gun in his head.
And I might welcome that at this point.
Mr. McGreevy,
Yes, sir.
at this point, we're at an impasse. You're gonna appoint a committee of 5. So at this point, everything is gonna stay the same until this committee meets and goes over this and comes back, is that correct?
That's correct.
At a prescribed time frame, when do you know, 6 months?
I see no reason it would need to take 6 months. I would think this could be done in a month or two.
I don't feel we need a committee of 2 or 3 people because I feel like several people's minds are already made up. And so, you know, that report, I don't know if I feel confident in that report. I would rather have all 14 of us come to a final decision next month. We'll talk about it. We'll invite these 2 gentlemen back to, if we have any more questions, and then make a vote between all 14 and get a consensus vote. That's what I feel comfortable with.
So last week when we talked, I encouraged all of you all to reach out to Leanne and talk to her, sit down with her. This is her bailiwick. It's what she does every day. Of the 14 that are here, how many of you all took the time to sit down and talk to Leanne? By a show of hands. So 4 or 14.
And before that.
And the reason I say that, if you all will do the diligence and take the time and ask the questions that need to be asked, I can't see how anybody could find fault in it, but somebody's gonna need to do it. And by having an actual finance committee, I feel like they would. But if you all want that as a challenge and you're gonna do it, and I'll say something else too in Leanne's defense. I know that you didn't purposely mislead anyone. If someone looked at that form that you handed out, it clearly stated it was per million, and that's not your fault if somebody did not pick up on that. I just say that in your defense. And we appreciate everything that you do.
Mr. Chairman, we still have a tie vote, and just like Mr. Curtis said, if we thought about it and run it again and see what we're gonna do, because just like Mr. Rochelle, Mr. Curtis, a couple others, we are the committee. And if the commissioners themselves didn't take responsibility and due diligence and check with Leanne back before last Monday, they shouldn't have waited till a full commission and went ahead and, because she's an employee, we need to take care of our employees. And this is no different than buying Randy Woods a tractor and a mower for to help him. We're helping her by the good grace that they have working relationship.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
my no vote was not necessarily saying that I do not want to go with First Federal. My no vote was to give us time, the entire commission, the time to look at this and understand to the depth. It's not that, and I talked with Miss Leanne as well. I almost called you Miss Wagner, I apologize. But I talked to her as well, and she explained some things to me that I was not aware of on the sheet of paper as well. I agree with you, you did not mislead us intentionally. I think there was some more information that you could have put on there that might have helped out on some of this. I will say that. But my point is, my no vote was not necessarily to go away from First Federal. I think, and I don't know, Colonel, how this process is, but I don't know if I can make a secondary motion that we actually do table this, because the vote was yes or no to go with First Federal. But there were several of us that, myself included, said we would like to see it tabled. So I don't know what the rules of order are here as far as, can we have a secondary motion to table this, not necessarily to form a committee, but for the rest of us, all of us, to be able to ask these questions over the next month or two. And it's still going to stay with First Federal for the time being, correct?
I'll yield the floor to Mr. Williams, and I know he'd be happy to stand up here and
The motion was to make the contract with First Federal, and it was tied. So the motion neither failed nor passed. It's still on the agenda based on the report from the admin committee, so it's still on it, but it was not passed nor failed. So you can't table a motion that's not on the floor. So there is no motion on the floor now to do anything. Now, if you wanted to send it back to the admin committee, then the motion would be to refer the issue back to the admin committee, and you can vote on it to see if it ties. If it ties, and you still don't have any motion. So if you want to refer it back to the admin, you just move to refer the matter back to the admin committee.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make that motion to refer this back to the admin committee to give us all some time to get more information and fully understand what we're dealing with, because we're dealing with a lot of county money. It's not just a tractor, it's not just a lawnmower, this is continuous. We need to make sure that we are using the county's money judiciously. That is our purpose, is to make sure that we use the money judiciously. And whether that means that we do stay with First Federal and we're out to $200,000 a year or whatever it is, because we don't go with Apex, that's fine. But I think we need as much information as we can get. So I'll make a motion to table it or send it back to the admin committee.
It's not tabled.
Not table,
Refer it to the committee.
to refer it back to the admin committee.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it. We will refer this back to the admin committee for future discussions. Thank you. It's not an easy thing, is it, y'all?
When you don't know.
We'll move on to the next resolution. This resolution authorizes the acceptance of a grant in the amount of $9,158 supporting post-secondary access in rural communities. This resolution additionally authorizes the account transfers as requested and appropriation of new money effective immediately. Mr. Hooper.
Yes, this is brought before the administrative committee and passed on to the full commission.
Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, without objection, I'll call for a vote. Ms. Wilson, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Coleman?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Jerry Hooper?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ricky Hooper?
Yes.
Mr. Hunt?
Yes.
Mr. Hurt?
Yes.
Ms. McClanahan?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Malone?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mayberry?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Tidwell?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Wagner?
Yes.
We have all ayes.
Thank you. All ayes. The resolution is approved. The next resolution authorizes the county executive to make application to the Tennessee Municipal Bond Fund for the amount of $4,500,000. The Humphreys County Board of Education has determined that the construction costs for the school system projects necessitated by the Trace Creek flooding disaster of August 2021 will exceed the previously determined amount. The additional funding will be secured through debt issued to the Humphreys County government. Mr. Hooper.
Yes, this brought before the administrative committee, explained by Mr. Rye. Numerous questions were asked and information given and voted to pass on to full commission.
When I say, is there any more discussion, I would also like to point out this procedure, we have gone through the steps and this is ready to sign. So when we vote for this, without your objection, this is approving the county to sign for these funds.
Judge,
Yes, sir.
actually, they'll, if you apply for it and the loan will be made, actually we'll have a resolution, a borrowing resolution, that'll be the authority to borrow the money. You have in the agenda package you had in the former resolution, would be the same type of document.
We have those documents in our packet this evening, correct?
Are these new ones?
Yes, sir. Have you all had an opportunity, you have in your packet the municipal bond fund?
So you're not authorizing you to apply for it, you've already applied for it, this is the resolution to borrow the money. Is that right? Yeah. And that's what they'll be voting on, adoption of this resolution. It says 17 million, so I assume that was the original amount, wasn't it? Or this is the new amount? This is actually the old resolution.
Yeah, you don't have the new, you didn't get the new one, I'm sorry.
I have not seen it.
This should be the same as what I've got.
Debt service in 17, that's the difference.
Judge, what this is a resolution to authorize application to make the loan.
Right.
What you do, then you go through the steps and then make application to make this petition for an application. And there'll be a new bond resolution that has to be adopted next month.
That's correct. So have we worded this properly for tonight's vote?
They all have this resolution.
Yes, sir.
And that's a resolution authorizing the application for this additional.
Okay, and that's actually what we stated. My apologies on the confusion, but actually what we stated is correct. It's authorizing the application for these funds, and once they're awarded, this will come back to the committee for that vote as well. So with that being said, is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
has Tennessee Municipal Bond Fund, does this get passed out to the local banks at all, or is that's a pretty high additional interest rate there, 15 basis points and 3.5%. I know it's went up, but.
You know, that's what we saw through USDA. This is the entity that these loans go through.
Okay.
And whether or not this actually gets out to local banks, I cannot answer that, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Spears.
Marty Spears, I'm with Tennessee Municipal Bond Fund. Yes, it was First Federal got the bid of 3.53. We've already got the bid, and the rate will be held for 60 days to close.
Thank you.
So yes, sir. And I know it was higher than the one we did. It's the same one we did with the, where we did the 17 million with the school originally, and it was with First Horizon, I believe, with the highway department, 6 million was with First Federal also, and it's basically the same, except it's been several months and rates have gone up. So, but closing costs, we cut those in half, just like we did last time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Spears. Do we have any other discussion? Hearing no more discussion, without objection, I will call for the vote. Ms. Wilson, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Coleman?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hooper?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. Mr. Jerry Hooper?
How many times have you been through this, Mr. Hooper? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay, sorry about that. Mr. Ricky Hooper?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hunt?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Ms. McClanahan?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Malone?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mayberry?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips? Yes. Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Tidwell?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Wagner?
Yes.
We have all ayes.
Thank you. I'll get to work. Next resolution is with the election of notaries. We have the following applicants that we're asking for you all to approve for notaries. Ms. Tanya Lambright, Ms. Tammy Dodd, Chloe Lofton, and Priscilla Buchanan. Mr. Ricky Hooper.
Yes, these names were brought before the administrative committee and voted on to pass on to this full commission meeting.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing no more discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and the resolution is approved. That, folks, concludes my business this evening. Is there any other business that we need to discuss?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.